Okay, we have Jeremy Graves with us today. Jeremy is a student in our online program. He's in his last year, his senior year, wrapping up. And we've asked him, he's in town to see our university today, so we've asked him to share a little bit about his OCU journey.
It's actually several months ago I reached out and said, is it possible for me to come see the campus? Because as an online student, you don't actually get that very often. Matter of fact, most people never see the campus, maybe not even till graduation. So to be able to come, and I got in a little bit early, had a chance to just walk around and see it, put on some music and did a prayer walk. It was really cool.
You know, it's neat. We have faculty and staff who regularly, you mentioned prayer walk, who regularly walk
Oh, wow.
people in a prayer walk. It's one of the unique things about OCU.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So, so tell me a little bit about yourself and why you chose Ohio Christian University.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I chose OCU for the C. So for the Christian piece, Ohio Christian University, that for me was a really important piece. I currently work for Boise State University in Boise, Idaho, and was looking for a place that also shared my faith belief. I love the university I work at, but we don't have that in common. So OCU, the reason I chose it, and I looked at several different schools, but one of the things that really stood out to me was the foundational piece of how scripture, how belief infiltrates everyday life. So it's not just simply, hey, do this devotional, but it's this information that we get in our classes is woven together with scripture and theology, and so then it now becomes a part of who we are every single day. And that's what I was looking for. I mean, at the crux of it, what I was looking for was an institution that practiced what it preached, and in many ways was able to bring people into the dialogue and the conversation around how do we live this out? Because it's one thing to be a Christ follower, it's another thing to be a Christ follower in the world outside of our institutions and our churches. So that was what drove me to be a part of OCU.
Did you happen to look at our mission?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did. Yeah. So I did, and I narrowed it down to, and I won't say the other schools because this is the one you should come to, but
Yes.
but I narrowed it down to two different schools, OCU being one of them, and mission was a part of it. The other part of it was really kind of the emphasis that I was looking for. So I'm in the interdisciplinary studies, but the emphasis for me of leadership and HR, because outside of the work I do at Boise State, I also do a bunch of consulting work. So I've written a few books on leadership, and I work with lots of teams and organizations around that. And the area that I feel the weakest in my kind of connection with organizations and organizational development is HR. And so I wanted to learn more about HR, and I wanted to be able to have that as part of the journey. So I'm pretty excited about being able to start to connect that too.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the interdisciplinary studies program served you? Because often an interdisciplinary studies program can be kind of like a general studies
Sure.
degree. Sometimes students are a little, I'm not sure about that. That's like graduating in nothing. And I advise students in the interdisciplinary studies program on campus. It can become a generalist degree, but if it's done well,
Right.
you can combine minors, you can combine concentrations in very purposeful ways. And then with that capstone, as you know, because
Yeah.
I had you in the capstone course, right?
Yeah.
That's where, we're intentional about having you put some things together so you know how to market yourself.
Yep.
With the program concentrations that you've
Yeah.
selected.
Yeah. So for me, one of the things that I really enjoyed about that process of thinking about interdisciplinary studies was, what am I already doing now, and where can I continue to grow? So there were two pieces for me in this of there's an emphasis on leadership, and I feel as a leader we should always be growing. I don't want to get stagnant. So I was like, you know what? I'm familiar with a lot of the topics and information that these leadership classes are teaching, but I can always learn and grow. So where can I learn and grow? So the leadership piece was important to me. But again, that HR emphasis as well, the human relations and how we work together and what that looks like in a business and an organization, coupled with the idea of how does the scripture infiltrate how we live and interact. Those were the things for me that were pretty exciting. And the PLA, so the prior learning Do you guys call that the prior learning assessments? Is that what it's called?
PLA is prior learning assessment. So it allows students to take the prior learning that they've had, and some of that can be formal, certificates, credentialing, continuing education credits, and I think that's where you had a lot of yours.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's informal. Maybe someone doesn't have that formal certificate, but through life experience or professional experience, they have some concentrated experience in an area, and they can write a paper that's a little bit longer than what you did. Yours were called sponsored professional training
Yeah.
papers.
And they were really hard to get narrowed down for me.
Yes.
That was the hard part, but
Yeah,
because
they're
you
just
have
a
to
few
get to it.
pages.
Yeah.
Because the certificate carries the weight.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about how you benefited from prior learning.
Yeah. This is the point where I would say if you are a online student and you've got some life experience, whether that's certificates or whether that is just experiences that you've had, the PLA for me was the other piece that made me go, this is why I want to be here. So for me, I'd been a pastor for many years. I had gone through a leadership institute that was connected to the vineyard churches that I was a part of. And I was able to use a lot of what I learned there as part of the PLA, and begin to write about that. But we know what was really interesting about it, and I think we might have talked about this at some point when we were going back and forth. But reflecting on those experiences was so powerful to me, because it forced me to go, okay, so you had this experience, and at the time I was a very young pastor. I was 27 years old when I took over as a senior pastor of a church. So I was in over my head from the very beginning. But that PLA allowed me to reflect and process. And I came out of it saying, actually did learn a thing or two. Even at 27 with all the other things, I had new kids in the house and all of that. We had moved across the United States, but all of that experience and the ability to reflect on it was really powerful. And so that for me was the power of the PLA. And the fact that I was able to really knock out a lot of credits as well in that process. I maxed out the PLA.
Which was 24 hours,
24
right?
hours,
So,
yeah.
yeah, Jeremy wrote for 24 credit hours, which is fabulous. We do have some students do that. We have some who write for 9 hours, some for 24. And again, going back to interdisciplinary studies, if for a student who comes in uh, with a lot of transfer hours or wanting to get the most out of their transfer hours, the IDS degree works so well.
Yes.
Because you have your gen ed core and then you have your IDS credits. I think something like 72 hours. Don't quote me on that. But all of the PLA, the other courses that you could be transferring in, even from universities with programs that we don't have,
Yeah.
we accept all of that credit. And students are just sometimes so surprised at how much of a gain they have from the get-go
Yeah.
on the journey.
And so I can't speak highly enough. If you are an online student and if you are like me, non-traditional, I'm only a few years older than the traditional students.
Just a few.
Just a few. But those are things that are so helpful in the journey because for many people thinking about the bachelor's degree and like, okay, trying to figure out how to work that in with my job and with all the other things that I have on my plate, the ability to say, oh, I can use some of this life experience. Oh, I can use some of the seminary background that I have and some of those things it was key to that success.
And you wrote for PLA credit, but there are other types of prior learning credit as well. I know they have sponsored pastoral training.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
They have, of course, military credit, CLEP credit. There are multiple ways that you can get prior learning credit, but 24 hours is the overall.
Yeah.
And that's almost a year.
Yeah. I mean, you think about that.
A full year of academic work, 24 to 30 hours in a trad setting, so in a traditional on-campus setting. So that's a lot.
Yep.
Though.
Yeah. So I highly, highly recommend it.
Appreciate.
If you have experience that you can use for that, it's fantastic.
You've talked also about just the pace. This was another reason you selected OCU. You didn't want to be at this forever.
Right.
You had things to do. So talk a little bit about the pace and how realistic it was for you, how manageable it was.
So I might be a little different in the fact that I'm pretty driven.
Yeah.
And I'm also in a little different phase in life right now as well. So both of my kids are out of the house. One graduated with a degree in education, and the other is in his senior year now of college. And so because of that, I had more, I guess you could call it free time. And so one of the draws for OCU for me was the pace at which you can take these classes. And I looked at this degree, and this degree completion process for me was so much about, listen, I don't want to do this for 5 years. I don't want to, take one class every, 5 weeks or whatever it is. I want to, as quickly as possible, move through this. Now, I know some people take online because they like the pace, and I get it. If I was in a different phase in my life, I don't know that I'd be able to do, I call them sprints. I wouldn't be able to do the sprints that I do. But over this semester, I'm taking 7 classes plus some at Boise State as well. And part of the reason for that is the way the sprints are designed is you focus for 5 weeks on a topic, or for me, I take 2 at a time. So I focus on those for 5 weeks. That was one of the selling points for me for OCU.
Now, I've had you as a student, and I know that you are very driven. So to hear that pace, how many classes you're taking, most students in our online programs take one class at a time.
Yep.
So they're working full time. They may have children at home.
Yep.
On top of that, involved in sports,
Church. Yes.
church, ministry, whatever. And it's hard to imagine, how can I fit one more thing? But when you're doing one class at a time,
Yep.
for a 5-week stretch or a 6-week stretch, all of those courses are 5 or 6 weeks for the most part. So can you speak to that a little bit? How manageable you think that would be for someone at a different stage? I know I'm asking you to go outside of your
No, it's okay.
experience, but
It's okay. I think that's
you
important.
work in education, so I
Right.
understand.
Exactly. I think that's really important to be able to say it's manageable. It
Mhm.
is manageable. I have yet to see a workload in any of the classes that I've taken that I just go like, this is ridiculous. How are we ever going to get through this?
Right.
I think that the way that OCU has laid out their online coursework, the key to their success, in my opinion, is just what you said. Someone who has a lot of things going on. And so the pace of being able to, a discussion board, a paper, maybe 2 papers that are due a week, and the kind of the rhythm of that. I do have to say as well, one of the most beautiful things that I think we even take for granted a lot is the devotionals each week that we have to write on and kind of reflect on. They can so set the stage for the rest of the week. But I believe it's really manageable for wherever you are when it comes to that pace in life or that place in life that you find yourself. It's super manageable.
There's also something to doing one course at a time.
Yeah.
Now, I know you've chosen to sometimes
Yes, I
do
go a little
more,
faster, but
but most of our students, like I said, do one at a time. And I know, like, I have a daughter who, I thought, oh, online learning is not for her during the pandemic.
sure, yeah.
She
My
thought
son was the same way.
an online class meant that she wasn't supposed to do anything because they weren't actually meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when she signed up for an online class, I was like, oh no,
Here we go.
oh no. And she was taking an online class here. But because it was just the one at a time,
Yep.
it just narrowed her focus.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, I got to do this for this astronomy course.
Right.
And that's all I need to think about right now. And it was manageable. And we'll sometimes even have our traditional on-campus, Circleville campus students take a 5-week online class in the summer. And they do very well because they're just focusing on that one class.
Yeah.
Some might think 5 weeks, finishing a course in 5 weeks, that's so overwhelming. But when you're focusing on just that
Yeah.
one class.
And I would say this, you can do anything for 5 weeks. You really can. You can do anything for 5 weeks. And so if, that focus for those 5 weeks, you can do it. There have been some that I've got into and thought, oh goodness, like, I don't know if I can do this. But then I think to myself, it's 5 weeks.
It's 5 weeks.
We can do it. It's 5 weeks.
You can do anything for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember for my doctoral candidacy exams, I had to write like one I would have one paper a week for 3 weeks. These were large papers.
Yeah, sure.
Almost 50 pages each.
Yeah.
And you could choose to do it for 6 weeks or 3 weeks, one question at a time. Or so you could do a 2-week question
Wow.
for 6 weeks, or the 1-week question for 3 weeks. And of course, I was going to choose the 6 weeks because I wanted more time.
Sure.
It was overwhelming to me.
Yeah.
And my advisor at the time said, nope. First, I know you, and you're going to do the 3 weeks because it's going to be rough, but it's 3
3
weeks
weeks.
of rough. And I know you, and you're busy, and let's just get this thing done because you're going to put the same amount of time into that week, whether you're doing it for 6 weeks or 3 weeks. Best recommendation ever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So that I
do anything for a few weeks.
That's exactly right. And that's what I've told even some of the students that I've gotten to know. One of the things that it's a kind of a personal thing, but I try to engage with every student as much as I can in the classes.
Yes, I noticed that.
Because for me, I also feel like there's just this encouragement piece of like, we just need to encourage one another. And so I've had some students talk to me after classes about how like, thank you for just that piece of encouragement right at that time.
Yeah, I think sometimes for online classes, an activity that probably receives the most complaints is the discussion forum.
Sure.
Sometimes they can just feel like busy work. Let's be honest. They feel like busy work, a hoop to jump through. But one thing I've noticed at OCU with the online programs, primarily taken by adult learners at a different stage of their life, that encouragement piece is there. Even if they're writing a discussion post about, I don't know, their fear of public speaking, whatever it is, you'll just see this encouragement come up, and even some interesting networking.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that? Have you had opportunities for networking?
Yeah.
I've just seen some neat things happen.
And I think that's also part of the journey, right? The educational journey.
Right.
When you put people into these cohorts for 5 weeks at a time, we're all in this together, right? We're all moving together. And one of the things that I oftentimes struggle with is I want to just knock it out and get it done. And I think that's a real positive thing. At times, what I miss is the interaction. If I just get everything done and turn it all in and be like, hey, great, it's all done.
Yeah.
You miss that interaction piece. And so I've really learned the pace that OCU sets is purposeful. For some students, going back to college I'm 49 years old, going back to college in your late 40s, you're like, what? Like, why would I? Can I do it? Do I have what it takes? And so being able to, encourage folks to, yes, you can do it. And listen, you're not in this all by yourself. We're here too with you.
Oh, I love the experiences that you're sharing, especially because I've had you as a student in class. So, things are coming to my mind that I've actually witnessed. And so that's nice. Anything else you want to share, or any advice you want to give for someone considering going to Ohio Christian University or pursuing online education in general?
So I think there's two things. Number one, if you're considering going to Ohio Christian University, just stop considering and just do it. Just do it. Like, let's go. And then the second thing is you can do it. I think that's important for people to hear. You can do it. Like, I know it seems daunting at times when you look at it, but you can do it. Just take one class, dip your toe in, see how it goes, and you'll start to find that rhythm. And when you find that rhythm, before you know it, you'll be like, oh, I'm going to be done soon. And
we have a wonderful support structure. We have professors who care, academic coaching, online tutoring.
Yeah.
That the university pays for. We have a nice
and for those that are I'm not very good at writing. I can talk all day long, but writing for me is difficult. I mean, it's very labor intensive. And so even the tools that are available for writing, so not just turn it in, to check and make sure you're not plagiarizing and stealing other people's work, but also the writing. What's that?
Oh, the Writing Center?
Yeah, the Writing Center. Yeah, so the Writing Center also is super helpful. Just, because you'll get real-time feedback and from folks that can really help you, think through that. So all of those things are so amazing and so helpful. And I cannot speak highly enough of this place and what God is doing through these professors and faculty and through you and the work that you're doing. So super excited to be able to be here and just talk about it.
Yeah, he even joined us today. This was a revival week
Yeah.
at Ohio Christian. So when he said when he was coming, I thought, oh, well, you've got to go to a revival service. So
Yeah.
we just came from a revival service, and
Can't you see the glory as up?
it was a great service. So
It was good.
thank you so much
Yeah, you're
for
welcome.
coming today,
Here.
making the long trip. I hope you enjoy seeing the campus. We certainly enjoy having you here.
Thanks.